A lot of people who've been following this case for a long time, who really are convinced that there is more that should be coming out about this, they've followed these conspiracy theories for a long time, are now looking at Trump, who is being quite witheringly dismissive about many of their concerns, and they're furious about it.
Every Tuesday we head to the US to find out what's happening in Washington. Lara Spirit is our woman cartwheeling, it says here, through the corridors of power. Lara, how are you? How are the cartwheels?
I'm good, thanks, Patrick. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Great to speak to you in your new guise as Washington correspondent. And there is no shortage of news for you to get your teeth into. I mean, American politics is making British politics look sedate as ever. So let's start with the story that is totally upending one of the most, cohesive and fiercely loyal and close-knit political movements in the world. MAGA, the Epstein files, the release of them, or rather the fact that nothing's been released, is tearing them apart. Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi told Fox News last week that the Jeffrey Epstein client list was on her desk, only for the Justice Department to conclude the list did not exist at all. And Donald Trump had this to say when he was asked about the list last week.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Donald Trump not mincing his words there, Lara, but, we know he had a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, or at least knew him. The report was on Pam Bondi's desk, then it wasn't. I mean, what's happening?
Well, it's a very good question. Quite a lot of the blame has been pointed in Pam Bondi's direction, particularly because they think she overstated what was on her desk. And she said subsequently, so in February, she said that it was sitting on my desk right now. She subsequently said that what she meant by that was that the wider Jeffrey Epstein documents were sitting on her desk, not that this so-called secretive client list of associates who were allegedly involved in the late paedophile's crimes was on her desk, but actually a wider tranche perhaps of documents. But it wasn't just that intervention that has upset quite a few people in the Trump administration about how she's handled this. It's also the fact that she invited those MAGA influencers to the White House. She gave them that big binders of files, which had hundreds of pages of documents, the kind of first tranche. She promised there would be more. And actually, almost all of that was already public. And so she's been accused of really leaning into this idea that the administration would be providing new light on the Epstein case. And so when that was that bombshell DOJ memo, which was anything but really a bombshell, it said basically this is case closed. He wasn't murdered. He killed himself in his cell in 2019, and there is no secret client list. And it concluded that there'd be no use in looking at this question any longer. It's hard to overstate how much many people in the MAGA base care about this question, and it's also hard to overstate how much they saw Trump as the route to figuring it out. You have people in the administration like Dan Bongino, who is of course the deputy director of the FBI, who has said a lot about this case before, saying basically that there was more than meets the eye on it. Even J.D. Vance, before the election, in a podcast with Theo Von, the comedian, said, it'd be important to release the Epstein files, that they need to do that. So a lot of people who've been following this case for a long time, who really are convinced that there is more that should be coming out about this, they've followed these conspiracy theories for a long time, are now looking at Trump, who is being quite witheringly dismissive about many of their concerns, and they're furious about it. And it does now seem like it's dying down slightly. So we've had a few botched attempts from Democrats to try and force this issue and make life more difficult for Trump. That's not really working. We've also had influencers like Charlie Kirk, who are now looking like they're towing the line on this a bit more. Dan Bongino, who had a big bust up with Pam Bondi, not a physical bust up, but something of a testy exchange last week, didn't go to work on Friday. He was so furious. And there were various reports in US outlets about the fact that he was considering his position, that it was either Pam Bondi or it was him. He came into work yesterday, it seems. And so in many respects, this is dying down. But I think it's the issue now in Trump's second term, perhaps across both of his terms so far, where you would say he's most out of step with people who are in his activist base. And it'll be interesting to see in the coming months what happens with it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned people like Dan Bongino, Charlie Kirk, the sort of foot soldiers of the MAGA movement. What Donald Trump basically did, didn't he, was march these people up to the top of the hill saying there's a deep state, we're going to take it on. And then all of a sudden, as you say, it's nothing to see here. It's a hard one for him to finesse, because if you spend your whole career whipping people up saying there's a deep state, and then reveal that the answer is more prosaic than you think. It's unsurprising that people might think you've been co-opted by the deep state, or they'll struggle to believe that some answers are more prosaic than conspiracy theories or campaign rhetoric might imply.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for Bongino, you can see why this is such an awkward issue. So he is formally, of course, before he was in this administration, a pretty well-known conservative political commentator. And he said in 2023, there are people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth. And this was language that was quite familiar to him that he would use. And so for him to now be in the administration, to be in the FBI no less, and to have seen the findings of this, it was such a delicate conclusion that they had to reach. And I think they felt like Bondi had overstepped. And are watching how loyal Trump has been to Bondi in this whole process. So you would consider her to have been pretty embattled after this had come out, and after there was total fury directed at her from the MAGA base. But Trump completely rode in behind her and actually had her in his football box at the FIFA World Cup's Club Series over the weekend. And so she's not really going anywhere. She's been a very, very loyal ally of his for years. And so I think in that respect, Trump is basically publicly saying both, that he doesn't think this Epstein case has anything left to run, and also has said in capitals on Truth Social that she's doing a great job and people need to get behind her.
Yeah, no, it is remarkable, isn't it? Well, as you say, when something's in capitals on Truth Social, Donald Trump is exercised by it.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.